All right, we'll get going here. Again, Dr. Luigi Pecoraro with SMU Cox School of Business. I'm in the Executive Education Department here, and I'm the Managing Director of our programs, both open enrollment and custom programs that we do for companies. And my favorite topic is leadership, both from a interest and pursuit of degree and general study of, as well as presenter and facilitator of leadership development. So let's look at what it means to become a transformational leader today. It's an exciting topic. That word transformational is a catchy word. We'll get into what that really means and how it impacts people and the organization. So we'll quickly in this session, we'll go ahead and jump into today's topic here right away. We'll transition into a quick overview of SMU Cox and executive education and present an offering to you that we believe will help you on the journey to becoming a transformational leader, if that's where you desire to go. All right, so the first thing about transformational leadership or transformational leaders is that they love to learn and grow. They're constantly willing to learn and grow in their leadership abilities and capabilities. And that's one of the hallmarks of a transformational leader. The topic for today, it comes from a very specific area of the literature in the academic world, but it's very pragmatic as well. We'll get into the pragmatics of how you can see, in fact, how if and how you are a transformational leader yourself and what you can do to become one. So what I'd like you to do right now is, for a moment, think of the best leader you've ever had. It could be a supervisor, teacher, sports coach, or anyone that stands out to you as a leader. Take a couple minutes here right at the beginning and note down what this individual did that made them a truly effective leader. And then what I'd like you to do when you have written a few things down, go ahead and light up the chat with your words or descriptions of what you think makes an effective leader. And I'm going to keep my eye on the chat for when you get there. See what. Do try to think of someone specifically that you've been led by. What made them effective? Jot down 2 or 3 things and then type them into the chat. Don't be bashful. Let me see some chats. Here we go. All right. Conveyed confidence in self and team, empathy, supportive, approachable, listening, empathetic, did what they said they were going to do, transparent and honest. Good stuff. People and employees come before everything, or came before anything. All right, very nice. Able to garner trust, yes. That's a key aspect of leadership. Walk the talk, 100% ethical, very good. Visionary, very nice. Empowering, consistent, good. This is great, good stuff. Have your back, yes. Look out for your best interests, no doubt. Passionate about their work. Visionary, flexible, and influential. Put others first and aren't selfishly motivated. Yes, very nice. So it's wonderful that we've actually experienced effective leaders in our lives. That's a good sign, number one. Number two, contend that in our heart of hearts, we know what good leadership is and what it looks like because we've experienced it at some point in our lives. And we admire good leadership. We admire excellent leadership, outstanding leadership. We admire it greatly. Now, the notion of becoming one of those people that other people would talk about you, that's a different matter. That's about putting what you know into practice. And that takes work, that takes effort, that takes some intentional application of ideas and behaviors. And that's what we're going to look in today. Oh, I love this last one. This definitely ties into today, taps into intrinsic motivation. Very nice. I think you'll see as we go through the day that what you've articulated here very much fits in with the key aspects of a transformational leader. And so we'll look at how that's categorized though, and how that's articulated through the notion of the transformational leader. All right, good work. So a definition, if you will, a transformational leadership is a theory of leadership, widely acclaimed theory of leadership, by the way, where a leader works with others and teams to inspire collective commitment and sacrifice toward a vision of a better future. That alone is inspiring right there, just the whole notion of that. So they are visionary, as one of you said. Very good. The term itself, transformational leadership, where did it originate? It originated with James McGregor Burns in 1978. It was first introduced as the concept of transforming leadership when he was describing political leaders in his research of effective leaders. Now it's a widely used term in behavioral organizational psychology. And according to Burns, transforming leadership is a process in which leaders and followers help each other to advance to a higher level of morale and motivation. Furthermore, he established two concepts, not only the transforming leadership concept, but the transactional leadership concept, which we're going to look at a little more closely here in just a minute. But when we look at transforming leadership, according to Burns, that approach creates significant change in the lives of people and organization. It redesigns perceptions and values and changes expectations and aspirations of employees. It makes them, for example, go the extra mile when maybe they weren't willing to do that for another leader. You've heard the phrase, he would go through a brick wall for you. So unlike a transactional approach, which is not based on a give and take relationship, there's a couple double negatives in there, but I use the quote as it is. A transactional approach is basically about a give and take approach. In contrast, the transformational leader's personality, traits, and ability to make change through example, articulation of an energized vision and challenging goals. So they have a different way that they go about it. It's not just a give and take, if you will. So in the progression of this research and this work of transformational leadership, Bernard Bass is really the one most equated with the term these days. He extended the work of Burns and has really been the leader of research over the last 30 years in this area. It's one of the most widely researched topics in dissertation history. So Bernard Bass transformed the notion here by looking at the psychological mechanisms that underlie these notions, and he changed the term to transformational. And what we have is over 30 years of research and a number of meta-analyses that have shown that transformational and even transactional leadership positively predict a wide variety of performance outcomes. One of the ones I'm going to contend with you today that is probably the most exciting is that transformational leaders are often most equated with innovation in their organization. That's one of those variables and outcomes that we see from transformational leaders. So according to Bass, this encompasses many different aspects of leadership. We heard from you all the notion of emphasizing intrinsic motivation, and there's positive development of followers. There's a sense of helping them to grow and to learn. Some of you brought up ethics, and we'll add in a little bit of moral standards here as well, that the transformational leader raises awareness of moral standards and has a higher moral maturity in followers, fosters a higher moral maturity in followers. They create an ethical climate where they share their values and high ethical standards. So this is a person of great integrity. They're able to highlight the important priorities for the organization, encourage followers to look beyond self-interest to the common good. This is a really key distinguisher between transactional leadership that looks simply at self-interest versus the common good. They're able to promote cooperation and harmony. They use authentic, consistent means of motivation, persuasive appeals based on reason, provide individual coaching and mentoring for followers, and appeal to the ideals of followers, allowing freedom of choice. Oh, wrong way. So Bass put this notion of transactional transformational leadership on a continuum, if you will, or an XY axis as well. And the way it's measured is high efficiency versus along with high engagement. Transactional leadership refers to the exchange between leader and follower to meet their own self-interests. So it's very, very narrow. On the lowest level of the continuum, where we have low efficiency and low engagement, very passive, we have what they call the laissez-faire leader. Maybe you've had the unfortunate experience of having one of these where they really deny their own leadership responsibility. They avoid taking any action. They're absent when needed. And this is somebody perhaps that was promoted reluctantly into the role, never was trained possibly to be a leader. So that presents a real challenge in an organization. It's already pretty well documented that 68% of managers and leaders are ineffective in their organization. This would be one of those percentages of the 68. Now, two kinds of transactional leaders. So this is based on just a fundamental transaction between employee and leader. Management by exception. And this is when the leader monitors the follower's performance and takes corrective action if the follower fails to meet standards. So this is, only looking at when things go bad or when things go wrong. You've had those kind of managers as well, where they don't compliment you for what you do well or even affirm what you do well. They just find what you do wrong, and they're quick to correct you. So they're really looking for that positive behavior and wanting to see positive behavior, but they only catch the negative. And then you have contingent reward or clear goals. That's a different dimension of the transactional leader. And this is where the leader clarifies the follower through direction or participation what the follower needs to do to be rewarded for their effort. So this is about, if I do this, I get this. So I get my paycheck if I come into work and put in my 40 hours and meet minimum performance expectations. Now we'll go deeper into transformational leader here, but obviously this is the highest level of engagement, the most active level of engagement, and we'll argue that it actually increases the level of efficiency in an organization as well. So the key to transformational leadership is what we call the 4 I's: intellectual stimulation, individual consideration, idealized influence, and inspirational motivation. Let me start with idealized influence. This is where the leader provides a role model for the high ethical behavior we've talked about. They instill pride in their workforce, and they gain a great deal of respect and trust from their workforce. They're able to inspire others, so they have what we call inspirational motivation. They light the fire inside people, not under their feet, if you will. The degree to which the leader articulates a vision that is appealing and inspiring to followers. So kind of that notion of let's take the hill, and you follow that person right up that hill. Now, intellectual stimulation is about the degree to which the leader challenges assumptions, mostly around process in the organization. They take risk and solicit followers' ideas. They want to improve things. So there's some cognitive challenge here in terms of thinking about what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. And then finally, they're able to give people that they lead individualized consideration. They care for the individual, the degree to which that leader attends to each follower's needs and concerns. So these make up the elements that have been both studied, qualified, and quantified in research. Behaviors that are associated with this can be measured to the degree that they're being displayed. Quickly, another way to look at these, some keywords that I think will describe what they are. Again, I'll start with idealized influence. It's the ability to walk the talk, to be a role model, to be enthused about what the work is, and embody the values, solid values, if you will. Intellectual stimulation has to do with innovation and creativity. That's going to be a big theme of ours here today. And you know, there's certainly still goals, and they're challenging goals. They're able to get discretionary effort as well. Individualized considership takes the form of mentorship, empathy, which you all have talked about, purpose, and focusing on people's strength and skill sets, and being able to leverage those. Finally, inspirational motivation. There's a clear vision, there's optimism, there's inclusion and productivity. Now, I want to get into the technical definition that Bass used here and make sure that we're getting the full flavor of each of these 4 I's, if you will, because they're really foundational to this notion. Originally, idealized influence was known as charismatic leadership. That term still is around, not only in our common parlance, but also in the academic literature where it's been studied as well. Transformational leaders act in the ways that make them role models. We've talked about that. They lead by example. They're respected, admired, and trusted. The followers identify with them and describe them in terms that imply extraordinary capabilities, persistence, and determination. So they're really highly esteemed by their followers. These leaders are willing to take risk. They can consistently be relied upon to do the right thing, displaying high moral and ethical standards. So I think we've captured it all here in terms of a person exemplifying what is idealized influence, a high level of influence. Inspirational motivation. Leaders embody the term team spirit. They don't go it alone, they go it with others. They show enthusiasm and optimism, providing both meaning and challenge to the work at hand. They create an atmosphere of commitment to goals and a shared vision. So this is again where they get that discretionary effort from people willing to do more than they're asked or need to do. Intellectual stimulation, I want to bring in the words here of creativity and innovation. They encourage that. They foster an atmosphere in which followers feel compelled to think about old problems in a new way. That's really a critical component here. Finally, we have the individualized consideration again, and this is where leaders act as mentors and coaches. Individual desires and needs are respected, differences are accepted, and two-way communication is common. So a good sharing amongst the leader and follower. They're considered to be good listeners. You all identified that in your experience of strong, effective leaders. And there's personalized interaction. The interaction is tailored to you and your needs. And they're constantly able to move others toward development of higher levels of potential. All right, so there we have the foundation for what is considered transformational leadership in the technical sense. You can see that there's very accessible dimensions here of what that looks like and what you've experienced as well. It's not so esoteric. Now, this is a little formulaic, but the notion here is that what distinguishes the transformational leader from the transactional leader is that when they are able to utilize those 4 I's, they're really going to leverage, it sort of becomes the fulcrum, if you will, or the catapult that takes people just from expected outcomes to performance beyond expectations. So really going from good to great, if you will, because the transactional leader is just going to get what they reward and or what they expect. One more comparison here, just to highlight a couple things, is that transactional leaders occur when followers are moved to complete their roles as agreed with the leader in exchange for reward. So they use rewards and punishments for motivation. And transformational leaders move followers to awareness about what is important and away from self-interest. So they use charisma and enthusiasm for motivation. Let's get into a few categories here and look again at the difference between the two. They're not mutually exclusive though. Let's put that on the table right now. You know, you can't run from sometimes from being in an organization that of course is structured to have rewards and compliance and other things like that. But it's important that you distinguish and augment your transformational aspects more than your transactional aspects. The source of power for the leader in the transactional realm is basically their rank and their position. The transformational leader's power is character and charisma. The reaction of the follower is more of a compliance in the transactional mode, whereas the transformational leader is able to garner a great deal of commitment from their employee. The focus, if you will, from a time frame is short-term versus long-term. You might think of you know, stocks and their 90-day run. That's sort of the short-term. What am I getting for what I give? Whereas the transformational leader is looking at long-term possibilities and development and opportunities. We talked about the rewards being pretty basic: pay, promotion, maybe a couple of spiffs here and there for a job well done. Whereas the transformational leader is really embedding a sense of pride and self-esteem in their workers. Supervision ends up being very important, a great deal of oversight, even micromanagement to some degree in the transactional world versus the transformational world where people are more empowered and need less supervision. They're more self-driven. And a counseling focus here is the evaluative aspect for the transactional leader. So did you do or did you not do your job as expected? Whereas again, the transformational leader is looking more at developing your potential and getting more out of you than you might think you can give. Change, where does change occur here? It's the follower's behavior. You're conditioning by behavior basically, whereas the transformational leader is able to get their followers to change their attitude and even their values. And then where is quote unquote leadership found? It's in their behavior, if you will, what they do, how they do it in terms of transactional actions, whereas the transformational leader is really touching the follower's heart. One more here, a little definition from this book here. Transactional leaders tend to look at the world through a lens of punishment, rewards, or exchange, what you might call horse trading. I love that, for motivation. While transformational leaders focus on listening, collaboration, and leading by example. And then I thought this quote was really interesting given our climate today where we're in such flux and change and uncertainty. Yet transformational leaders' potential to address issues that are relevant in the modern, changing, and uncertain work environment is the main reason for its positive influence. They're not deterred by issues of great challenge. They see opportunity and challenge. All right, so I just want to point a little bit of evidence here that comes from the literature and from studies of actual leaders and just kind of validate through some studies why this concept has caught on and continues to be relevant. Evidence is accumulated to demonstrate that transformational leadership can move followers to exceed expected performance. And here's another key, as well as lead to high levels of follower satisfaction and commitment to the group and organization. A couple of studies I just want to put out there that I just picked randomly here from the literature. One is a 2013 study of 954 firms that revealed that the 4 I's that were highly exhibited by the transformational leader positively influence innovation orientation. So there's that link, direct link that's made to greater innovation in the organization by transformative leaders. In a 2010 study of 168 firms, it showed that transformational leadership influences organizational performance positively through organizational learning and innovation. So that spirit again is there. And organizational learning influences performance positively, both directly and indirectly through innovation. And finally, organizational innovation influences organizational performance positively. So 3 different ways to say the same thing, I think, which is there's an impact on innovation and outcome productivity. So how do you become a transformational leader? That's really what most of us are interested in and most of us would want to aspire to. It's certainly, if you will, noble to think that we might become that kind of a leader. and desire to be that kind of a leader. I mean, if you have a choice, why not? I remember in my freshman year of college, I had a very influential teacher, and that teacher said that throughout your lifetime, and so here I am 18 years old, throughout your lifetime, you are likely to influence over 10,000 people directly or indirectly by your life. I thought, wow, that's a lot of people. That's a long life I'm going to lead, I hope. But it just made me think, well, if that's the case, I want it to be for the positive, right? I want the way that I touch and impact people to be positive. And that's why I've been drawn to leadership, because I think leaders have such great impact and widespread impact. So the way to become to see if you are in fact a transformational leader or could become one is to be measured, if you will. And so there is an assessment tool. It's called the multi-factor leadership questionnaire, what we commonly refer to as the MLQ. It's become the benchmark measure of transformational leadership. And this instrument measures and reports back to the person or individual how they relate on key factors that set truly exceptional leaders apart from marginal ones. So it's a 45 question survey. It takes about 15-20 minutes for your peers and subordinates and others in the organization to fill out about you. And that's really the key. You don't get to determine whether you're a transformational leader or not. It has to be validated. It has to be validated by how people experience you, by how people, how you come across to others, right? Are they going to say the things that you said about those effective leaders at the beginning because they've experienced that from you? Well, this assessment will draw that out. It's valid across all kinds of cultures and organizations. Again, it's been one of the extensively researched and validated instruments, documented in numerous journal articles and independent studies. And among the assessments that are out there in the leadership space, MLQ provides the best relationship of survey data to organizational outcome. So what does it entail? What does it involve? Why might this be of interest to take and get that feedback in the mirror, if you will, about how you're doing? Well, it's about building trust and acting with integrity. Those are the idealized influence attributes and behaviors. The first one, building trust, looks at the leader's ability to build trust, inspire power and pride, and go beyond their own individual interest for their followers. Acting with integrity is about talking about their values and beliefs, focusing on a desirable vision and consider the moral and ethical consequences. So things we've talked about, there's specific behavioral components to that. I didn't want to bore you with all 45 questions, but obviously they relate to these areas. Inspirational motivation is looked at as encouraging others. Leaders behave in ways that motivate those around them, providing meaning and challenge. Encourages innovative thinking. We talked about this being a key aspect of intellectual stimulation. This scale measures the follower's effort to be innovative and creative by questioning assumptions, reframing problems, and approaching old situations in new ways. And finally, with that individual consideration, we talked about how they coach and develop people. So we look at the frequency in which leaders pay attention to each follower's needs for achievement and growth by acting as a coach or mentor. In contrast, at some level, we may exhibit some of these behaviors as well. So the instrument does measure the transactional scale as well as the passive avoidant behaviors to see where you are in this regard. If you're not quite as transformational, maybe you're a little more transactional that you like to see. And again, you want to get the widest 360 view you can to get the best perspective here. But the contingent reward we talked about, about rewarding achievement, that's basically it's going to look at a couple different behaviors that basically say, give and take. Now, there are two kinds of management by exception. There's an active versus a passive that it measures. The active one being more monitoring for deviations and mistakes, whereas the passive is more waiting for problems to show up before taking corrective action. And then, of course, the laissez-faire or avoids involvement really refuses to assume responsibility that are part of their position as a leader. And this kind of leader is one to be avoided from a follower perspective, if you will. All right. So Can TL, transformational leadership, be trained? Yes, of course it can. That's what we're in the business of doing here at Executive Education. And just two published studies, if you want to look up, Barling and Kellaway, use rigorous research designs used to assess the effectiveness of leadership training in two different organizations. The results showed statistically significant changes in the transformational leadership behaviors resulting from the training. So that gives us confidence that we can do this. There are, again, a number of other studies that show this. Excuse me. So if you want the authoritative resource here, if you want to dig deeper into this topic and go to the original source, Bernard Bass, along with Ronald Riggio, there is a book called Transformational Leadership, second edition. It's a nice balance between academic perspective and pragmatic leadership development blueprint, if you will, for how to go about developing transformational leaders. So it's just a good balanced book for your perusal and use, if this is something that you're either in the position to help others do or need to look at for yourself. All right, so if you're going to become a transformational leadership, you kind of need to know where you stand first and foremost. That's why I suggest you consider the MLQ as a way to begin that process. And for joining us today on this webinar, I'm going to go ahead and give away 5 free assessments. They're valued at $250 for the first 5 people who email me at lpecoraro@smu.edu. In the subject line, put free MLQ, please, and then be sure to include your contact information, including a phone number in the body. So if that's an assessment that might be appealing to you, to get a sense of where you're at, and we can also, when we debrief it, talk about how you might improve yourself through that feedback from the instrument. I'm happy to do that for the first 5 people that stand up. Now here at SMU Cox School of Business and the Executive Education Department, we believe we can, in fact, create transformational leaders. I want to talk to you about the Cox Academy and how we look to do that through this particular offering. Before I do that, let me just talk a little bit about the SMU Cox Advantage. As a school of business, we're actually celebrating 100 years of business education. We did that just this past February 20th, 2020. Before all that COVID stuff hit. But we're very proud of that long history and impact in the business community. We have highly rated and proven instructors, true and tested content. We as a school have a commitment to leadership development, both in our academic programs and in our non-academic programs. We work very collaboratively with both companies and individuals to foster success. And we have a high value investment in leadership development. Here, in this school, especially in executive education, we train business leaders. We're not about fostering academic knowledge. We believe leveraging that knowledge and that research is what's more important. We do incorporate principles and techniques of adult learning, which include reflection, participation, sharing experiences amongst the learners, varied learning methods, and instructors who are both credible, memorable, relevant, and also humble and respectful. Just share with you one of the key principles of adult learning. I got my master's now a little over 25 years ago. This is well before I got my doctorate. But I remember investing $15,000 in that master's and really only remembering one thing: that's adults learn what they need to learn when they need to learn it, as close to when they're going to use it as possible. That is adult learning theory in a nutshell. So that's why ongoing leadership development is important. There's always some aspect of your leadership capacity or capability that maybe right now you need to be honing and developing. At Cox Executive Education, we have experts engaging faculty who are leaders in their fields. So if we're going to offer a topic, it's always getting the best expert on that topic. Relevant content based on the latest research. Again, research-based, but pragmatically oriented. Innovative tools you can put to work today. We foster collaboration and networking among diverse colleagues. And we really try to create a safe and challenging learning environment to think and test new ideas. That's what education ultimately is about. All right, so the Academy is a 10-day challenging program. It runs about every other month for 2.5 days. So 15, 16, half day 17 in September is when it starts. This is a dynamic course for VP level and above, and it will transform your leadership vision of yourself and your organization and help you to approach that from the inside out. Just to highlight our mission at the School of Business and why this, again, is very important to us, the mission is to equip leaders with the knowledge, skills, and experience needed to become transformative business leaders in a changing world. So it very much fits with who we are and what we're about as a school. The Academy, the hope and the intention, the aspirational intention here is to graduate those that are adaptable, innovative individuals who want to work in cross-functional teams and learn to critically analyze problems in their organizations. They can succinctly communicate data insights and leverage technology in a global setting to solve complex business issues and lead effective change for business growth. That's our guiding aspirational vision for this program, along with becoming a transformational leader. So what are the objectives or the outcomes that we hope to foster in this program? First and foremost, we talked about it at the very beginning, transformational leaders learn and grow. And so we want to continue to foster a growth mindset for the leader, themselves, others, and their enterprise. We're going to help cultivate more confidence in one's own capability, agility, and resilience. Critical skill is better able to lead successful change initiatives, particularly across the organization at the highest levels. We're going to help adapt and integrate digital solutions, technology solutions into core business practices. That's key today. Continue to leverage trust, authenticity, and influence into everyday interactions. We never can take that for granted, continually being tested in that regard. We want to increase creativity and innovation, achieve maximum foresight and execution, increase collaboration across those functional areas in the organization, make you, if not already, become succession ready and learn how to leave a legacy in your organization. So that's how we've oriented each module to get this kind of an outcome. Overall, it's a 6-month journey to becoming a transformative leader. You'll hear me use that word interchangeably, transformative or transformational. There is the 360-degree assessment that's part of that program. It actually includes an authenticity component too. They're bi-monthly residencies for 2.5 days. I've mentioned that already on our main SMU campus in the Collins Center. However, given the new environment, we've got the technology to broadcast our live programs online simultaneously. And so if people, for travel restrictions or health reasons, want to participate, but are concerned about coming into our facility, you can take the program via online web-based tools. I'm going to get into this integrated leadership development model here in a minute. There's personalized learning through one-on-one coaching. So there's actually 6 coaching sessions in between sessions and after the program to really help you take that assessment and develop a plan to become more transformational. There's an action learning project, which means you're going to work with your peers from your organization or other organizations to implement the things that we teach in the program to either provide an opportunity for your organization or maybe a savings for your organization. And finally, throughout the program, we'll feature industry leaders who will be speakers throughout the program. So the leadership development model that we use, which is really an integrated learning model, starts with having executive sponsorship and participation. We want you to have the blessing, if you will, of your leader or leaders. And then we've talked about coaching for personalized development. There's usually pre-work as you come in to our program to get you ready to learn. The assessment we've already mentioned, reflective exercises on the pre-work. There'll be an individual learning plan that you create and look to implement. We talked about the action learning, and finally in the classroom, really mixed modality learning experiences, from discussions to simulations, to exercises, to activities, all kinds of different ways for people to learn. What are the topics? There's a ton of them. Won't go into each one of them here, but the thematic way that they flow throughout the 4 modules, if you will, is the notion of leading self, leading others, leading in the organization, and leading across the enterprise. So for example, across the enterprise, we have strategic management from the enterprise perspective and leading effective change. For leading others in teams, we have leading high performance teams. For leading self, emotional and social intelligence, the ESI advantage, and the influence factor. So these are all meant to touch on the 4 critical dimensions of leadership throughout the program. And again, we're very skill-based, very competency-based. Competencies are just a set of skills, if you will. So example, managing diversity isn't one skill, it's multiple skill sets. That's what a competency is. And these are the competencies that we've mapped to the learning objectives and to the curriculum that will be used in the program. An abundance of them, but all doable in the 10-day format that we're going to do. So whether it's basic business acumen and strategic agility, or some change management we've talked about, increasing your decision quality, whatever it is, we're going to have some very specific outcomes that we're going to provide. All right, so who is the applicant here? Who should consider this program? It's really someone who's identified and validated by the organization as current or future senior or enterprise leader. So someone who's on the go, on the rise, and the organization has identified you as that future leader. Obviously, we want you to have a strong desire to learn, grow, and change. Consistently strong performance. You probably already high potential and high capability. You're demonstrating strong leadership characteristics. You have support from your direct leader, as we talked about. You can commit to the time frame because there are monthly virtual sessions in between the bi-monthly sessions as well. And you're willing to invest the time and energy to participate fully, not only for your own benefit, but really for the benefit of others in the program as well. So real quickly, here's what it looks like. Their topics are broke up into modules. It might be a half-day module or a full-day module. Here's leading self into 5 modules. Leading others in teams is 2 full-day and a half-day module, if you will. And then a little bit more leading others, and then leading in the organization, innovating, using analytics strategically in the organization, and then leading across the organization, leading change and strategic management. We'll have a report out here of the learning projects in the last session, and then finally look at what creating organizational sustainability looks like. Other programs that you might want to tap to develop your leadership, if this isn't the right level or the right program for you, we have a director level program called Transformational Leadership that starts on September 8th. 10 weeks, Tuesday nights, 6 to 9 p.m. Again, for director level and above. 10 different topics that apply to leadership and taking your leadership to the next level. It obviously has the fancy title, but this is very condensed. It's 30 hours compared to the 80 hours of the academy. There's a basic fundamentals of management program if you're newer to management or been in it a little while and want to bone up on those fundamentals. We have an interesting organizational change simulation that we're leading on 10-1. It's a 1-day program. If you click through, I gave you the click through on the Academy. You can also look at the other programs as well when you get on our webpage. Women in Leadership will be offering for the first time this fall. We have Master Negotiation, which is a very popular program that we do twice a year. We also have introduced a new program last year, Mergers and Acquisitions, which is very popular. And finally, Building the Intelligent Enterprise, where we'll look at next generation data through artificial intelligence, deep learning, and machine learning. If none of these appeal as is, we do design custom programs for companies year-round to specifically meet the needs of your business objectives and learning objectives. All right, so we'll make the slides and the video program available to you afterwards, but if you need to contact, and so you'll get this information, but if you'd like to contact us sooner, you can contact me directly, or if for some reason you don't get a hold of me, you can contact Sherry Moore at shmoore@smu.edu or at 214-768-9113. With that, I'm going to look to see what's going on in chat and Q&A. All these chats only came to panelists. Oh, darn it. All right. My bad. You didn't get to see all the inputs. I did feed them back to you, though, when they were coming in. Next time, we'll make sure that it goes to everyone, attendees as well. That was me not getting the right setting. Sorry about that. Let me look to the Q&A. No open questions at this moment. Some people put their characteristics in there for a leader. Questions about transformational leadership, what it is, how to develop it, why it's important, what the challenges are. Anything? I was clear as could be, evidently. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in. I'll give it another minute here, and then we can just wrap up if there are no questions. Feel free again to reach out with any questions you have directly to me. I'm happy to have any conversation or dialogue on this topic. It's a sweet spot passion of mine. And I always want to help others become better leaders. And again, I'll be looking for those first 5 emails for somebody who wants to take the MLQ. All right, well, with that, we'll call it a wrap. I'm not seeing any Q&A coming in. Feel free to do that directly. It's been a pleasure being with you today, and I want to wish you well in your leadership journey. Take care now.